2 weeks has turned into over a year.
So basically, as soon as the regulations for the new year came in, you're like, screw this, we're staying open this time.
When they shut us down December 12th,
Yeah.
I considered then saying no, we're not closing.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel it was time. I figured I'd give AHS the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And try and do our part, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's not. I don't necessarily think that it was the right decision in the first place, but at that point, I wasn't. I guess I wasn't frustrated enough yet.
Okay.
So we said, okay, we're going to be shut down for 4 weeks. So we tried really hard. We ramped up our takeout. We started doing frozen meals again.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to pivot as best we could.
Yeah.
And right before this happened, we were starting to get busy again. So of course I went out and I bought a ton of inventory.
Oh.
And basically the next day they said, no, you need to shut your doors. Like, are you kidding me? Full freezer, full fridge, full store, pantry, everything, right?
Okay.
So
We'll just skip.
Anytime you're ready to go.
Okay, perfect. I might just if you just say and spell your full name, and then I'll get more into it. Your full name, what your position is here.
yeah, my name is Christopher Scott, and I'm the owner of the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta.
Can you spell your full name?
CHRISTOPHER SCOTT.
So first off, how has business been for you now that you're staying open?
Well, being the only restaurant in Alberta open, or one of very few, makes it pretty busy.
And what have you heard from patrons coming in that you're going against public health orders?
Overwhelming support. Every person that comes in here, we give them full disclosure. We let them know that they could be subject to fines, and if they don't leave after they get a fine, they could be subject to arrest for obstruction of justice. And everybody just says, yeah, we're with you.
And overall, per day, how many people do you probably have coming through here?
Oh boy. Well, we're selling about 30 pounds of ground beef a day, so I'd say 250 to 350 people.
Okay. So obviously you followed these orders from the beginning, but what was kind of the breaking point for you why you're like, I'm reopening and I'm going against these orders now?
Well, the breaking point was when the 4 week shutdown came around. At the end of that, towards the end of that, I said, no matter what, we're opening. When this 4 weeks is up, we're opening. We've had enough. They announced another 2 weeks, and I thought, okay, well, I still got cold feet. I'm not quite ready, but we're definitely going to open at the end of this 2 weeks. So the 2 weeks came around. I started posting about we are going to be open, and at that point, I was on the fence if I was just going to do a 1 or 2 day open the dining room to get some attention, make some noise. But then I heard Dr. Hinshaw on the radio, or maybe it was TV, I can't remember, talking about how there was no foreseeable end in sight for the restrictions, and that was it. Like, enough is enough. There's small businesses everywhere failing, struggling. It's time to take a stand.
Explain to me the tricky part too when it comes to inventory, because you're not given it's either a week or maybe a day's notice. So how does that affect things for you to even be open or close?
Well, it's no different than in your home. If you go out and buy a whole bunch of groceries before you go on vacation, you come back to spoiled food. You can only freeze so much. You can only change the plan of what you're going to do with it so much. So there's a lot of wastage that happens.
And then you're also out that money.
Yeah, for sure.
If you had the money in your pocket, it would be different.
Yeah.
So tell me exactly the day you reopened, and then so what day did you officially reopen?
January 21st.
So you've only been open a couple of days?
Yeah.
But then, so when have you received a letter or anything from AHS yet?
The day that we opened, I'm sure AHS's phone lines and the RCMP lit up. They were receiving complaint after complaint that there were people eating in our dining room. So I got a call from the health inspector, and we had a good discussion. He let me know what his intentions were, and I said, okay, well, that's fine. I'll see you tomorrow. So he showed up at the RCMP the next day, and they went over the consequences for what we were doing. And it was a very civil discussion. It was very respectful, and that was the last time I heard from him.
Have you ever been fined yet?
Not yet.
So do you feel like the staying open kind of is worth it when you see all the repercussions that could come?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, we talk about repercussions. Let's talk about the repercussions of not opening. So a business like mine, if I didn't open, there's a good chance that we would be under in less than a month. And there's hundreds of businesses just like mine. So it was a choice between going under and not standing up for what I believe in, or standing up for what I believe in and having a chance to change something.
And that said, though, too, do you take the enforcement of AHS and RCP as seriously? I mean, you're seeing people that are getting warnings on paper for weeks on weeks. Do you feel like, on the flip side, there's really not that much enforcement anyways, or do you feel like it's pretty serious?
Well, absolutely, I think it's serious, but even more serious than that is the negligence that's happened during this whole thing perpetrated by AHS. I mean, they issued a blanket sweeping totalitarian measure to try and prevent the spread of COVID that they have done before that hasn't seemed to work. They had no consultation with industry as far as I know. There's no other restaurant owner that I know that's been involved in the conversation with AHS as to how we can effectively manage the risks with this pandemic. In my opinion, they didn't do their due diligence, and they caused more harm to Alberta than they helped.
Let's say hypothetically, there's a COVID outbreak and it's tied to your shop. What would you think about that?
Well, I wouldn't like it, of course. I'm sure Superstore and Walmart wouldn't like it either. I know there's been outbreaks in other places with less stringent measures than what we have. I mean, nobody's perfect, but at the end of the day, we all exist in nature. So if the bigger stores and the other outlets are going to be allowed to operate and possibly have a COVID outbreak, why can't I?
What do you think about, like, lots of people coming in here without masks? So not only you're staying open, but you're also not following the other things. So what's your policy behind that?
Well, it's not that I'm not following it. As you can see, I'm wearing a mask. I don't particularly believe in wearing face masks. I don't like it. I hate it. It's hot. It's gross. If people come in here not wearing a mask, my first thought is that person can't wear a mask, because most of the people that come in here, I ask them to, if you're able to wear a mask, please do so, because that's not a fight. That's not what my fight is about right now. My fight is for small business and giving us the chance to survive. The masks is another story. But just on that note, what I've seen over the last few months is a horrible divide in the people of Alberta and Canada, where people that choose to wear a mask or don't choose to wear a mask are being verbally abused, they're being shunned. I know of one friend of mine, good friend, that was assaulted because she can't wear a mask. And somebody actually assaulted her over a conversation whether or not that she should be wearing a mask.
What about when it comes to businesses? I mean, I've done tons of stories where in Edmonton, more businesses wanted to close as opposed to ones to stay open because they just didn't feel it was worth it because not many people were coming in anyways because of things. So what would you say to those businesses that encourage closure and that are staying closed to follow those rules?
Well, I've always said I believe in personal choice and personal accountability and responsibility. So if that business owner has done their assessment and determined that their business shouldn't be open for one reason or another, then I'll be behind them 100%.
If you come, I mean, I've heard from another shop that got fined last week, $1,200 from the RCMP. Are you going to kind of draw the line if those fines start coming through to you?
I won't draw the line.
So you will not be closing?
No.
No matter what?
No.
Okay. And what is it like when you show up here every day? Like this morning, describe to me the scene when you were just about to open.
When I was about to open?
Yeah, just describe to me what you saw people line up, or what was the scene like?
Oh no, it's a Monday. People are back to work. We've got other things to do. The morning was fairly slow until the lunch hour came around, and then it was busy.
Okay. Anything, Paul? You want to add anything? Or?
How many people do you need there? I feel like you restricted the amount of people coming into the dining room type thing?
Yeah, as you can see, we don't have all of our tables and chairs set up right now. We're keeping to around 50% of our capacity at the moment.
And then, how dire was it? If you could open up. How bad of a situation would have been if you didn't open up, right?
Dire. We've had one employee on over the last 6 weeks, and to be honest, we can't even really afford to pay her. So the people that you see supporting me right now, they're all volunteering. We had a meeting right before the restrictions were supposed to end, and I said, look guys, this is what I want to do. We have no money left. Will you stand with me and help make this happen? And every single one of them said, yeah, we'll volunteer time. Let's get this happening.
So is it a case where basically you're struggling to tread water right now? Like this was a necessity for you?
Well, he said he'd go under.
Oh yeah, yeah. you can't take any business and cut their revenue by 60, 70, 80% and hope to continue, right? A restaurant in particular, we're lucky if we make a 30% profit on a meal. That's about standard for the industry. So if we're barely paying our bills, which most restaurants, they just survive. The owner takes they make a living, but we don't get rich. If you take that and you cut that in half, you're pumping money into your business every week.
When you look at it like life or death, is it worth the risk if it could, I mean, COVID's killed people, right?
Yeah.
So what do you feel, is it worth the risk of this?
Well, I drive a car, I ride snowmobiles, I fly in airplanes. I do all sorts of things that are risky, as does every other Canadian, and that's our choice.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Although I think it would be helpful to point out that COVID is not the only thing killing people. Like, people are dying from what's being done right now.
Yeah, we
So,
won't get into that. That's a whole other story, but
well, I think like
That-
people always
that
want to say
actually-
that, and I think that's important to
That
point
actually
out.
was one of the reasons that pushed me closer and closer to doing this. I do have friends who are musicians. One friend in particular, he's lost 7 people in his life over the last year, 12 months. And these are people that they live to entertain, artistic people, right? They've taken their own life because they're broke, they have nothing to do, they're alone with their thoughts, and it's like it's never going to end.
right.
So there's that. There's other impacts that have happened because of AHS's decisions. I had a customer in yesterday that had a little kid with them. I think she was like a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
That kid had never been around other children, ever, its whole life. So we have children in their developmental years not socializing with people. We have elderly people stuck in homes, not able to do anything, and that's a really tricky one because they're at risk.
Yeah.
But we have old people dying alone because they can't have their family with them.
Yeah. It's tough. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's hard. I won't include that just because it's a whole other story.
But that's not another story though.
I know. But, like, okay, yeah, for sure.
Because this is my argument is
This is why we're doing this. Like,
Part-
this is part of our thought process and why we feel this way.
Right.
is a negligent decision that's causing more harm than good. So about Alberta Health Services, their mandate is to look after the health of Albertans. Every physician takes an oath to do no harm, and there's harm being done right now.
Do you know when you'll get another rush? Just because probably no video of people in here, right? We should have got it before. Like, what are we gonna?
I'd say an hour.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Right. If you happen to find any way to get video just showing patrons actually in here, let me know because we're just a bit of a.
If you look on our Facebook page, there's people have posted the CTV article.
We can't take CTV stuff.
No?
No.
I think that's the only thing we have.
Okay. No worries. Let's make it.